We have sitting down right now over there with Swag, Nebraska head coach Matt Rhule.
Hey,
We got 5 minutes with Coach.
Let's go. Joining us now is the head football coach at the University of Nebraska, Coach Matt Rhule. Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes for us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. Look, it's an exciting time with the Big Ten kind of expanding. We're out here in Portland, Oregon. What is it like for you as you've seen the world of college football shift from, before you went to the NFL to in the NFL and now coming back to Nebraska? What's it like for you to see the University of Nebraska in the Big Ten, and now we have 4 West Coast schools joining the party?
Well, it's a lot of change. I wasn't too fired up when they said Oregon was coming. I was like, why are we doing that? And that's nothing but respect for the Ducks. But no, I mean, I think what we've created here is we've created like a mini NFL. Coast to coast, different play styles, different weather, different time zones, and we're gonna have a national product.
When you take a look at where your guys are at Nebraska now, holistically, what is the mentality, the mindset of getting into this conference now that is kind of, like you said, the quasi mini NFL? Does the mentality have to change, not just for you guys, but the entire conference as a whole to get into the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think the hope is that the at least 4 teams from this league get into the playoff. I mean, you don't have to run the table because you're playing too hard of a schedule. When they added you guys, they added USC, UCLA. Like those used to be great non-conference games. Now they're like your regular season, and so I think the hope is that at some point you could be 10-2, 9-3, and still know you're going to the playoff if you're that good of a team. And I think teams are also going to have to build themselves to not just get to the playoffs, but find a way to win those games. How are you gonna compete once you get into the playoff? And so there's a lot of unknowns, and really the best minds will figure things out the quickest.
We were talking to Pete Thamel earlier from ESPN, and he said that we were talking about the difference in college football now and the way head coaches operate. And we've seen guys like Nick Saban talk about after the Rose Bowl, the way his locker room reacted, that didn't sit well with him. And I asked him, what is the main thing when you look at the most important quality for a modern college football coach? And he said connectivity. As a guy who's in the thick of it, what do you think is the main and most important quality you have to have in coaching a college football team now that has NIL, the transfer portal, and the mega conference that the Big Ten has become?
Well, I think it takes a lot of different things. I think connectivity is a great answer. I think the key is you can acquire a lot of talent, but can you build a team? And can you reach all the different players? As players get more power via transferring and the ability to make money, they're gonna sift through who they really believe in and who they don't. And so, I think that connectivity allows you to get recruits, but also allows you to keep them, and also allows you to build a roster that, hey, we're not all getting the same thing anymore. Yet we still have to have a sense of brotherhood, and that takes special people who can do that. And I think that's the key to me, because lots of guys can call play. I can hire guys to call plays. But someone has to set a vision of brotherhood that's really, really hard to do.
That's something that, whether it was at Temple or Baylor or now Nebraska, I mean, that's something that, as I followed your career, you have always kind of preached. What has changed in you as a head coach in the way that you handle your team, and the biggest change that you could say from when you took over at Temple to where you are now?
Probably a little more patient. I think you start doing this, you start looking back, and players that I coached at Temple are they're deceased. They've moved on from this world, and you start saying to yourself, like, man, I only have these guys for a short amount of time. I've always been a person who believes that I'm here to help young people be their best. But at the same time, I also don't know what everyone's going through. And whereas I used to talk first, listen second, now I try to listen first, talk second. I still like to think of myself as a tough guy, still demanding and accountable, but it's all done in love and caring. I think our young people are, they have more things happening to them now than ever before, and a lot of them don't know who they can count on, and I want my players to know that they can count on me.
In that kind of same vein, in the landscape of college football changing, not only is that connectivity and the coaching, but Nebraska in particular was I don't know, a fortress of solitude when they put up that gate of 500 miles around it, and the way that recruiting is done, and the transfer portal, and all of the different things that are changing. What are the things that you have to prioritize now at a Nebraska specifically that you didn't have to worry about 20 years ago?
I think we have to find players who are going to stay when things aren't going well. When things are going well, they're having success, and someone comes in and tries to buy them away from us. I'm always trying to find the guys that are in it for the long run, because I think what we're going to see at some point is the teams that win in college football are going to be the ones that have a veteran team. You know, you think back to Washington last year. You know, obviously Penix, you know, he had transferred at one point, but he had been there for, you know, I think 3 years. You know, obviously you guys had Bo, and he had been there for several years. You know, I'm always saying to myself, hey, who's looking for the bigger, better deal, or who wants to come to Nebraska? And if I can find guys that really want to be at Nebraska, they're going to be there through the thick and thin. Then you know what? They'll get better, and the team will improve, and we'll find ways to win.
Love it. Coach, I know that you're up against it. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to sit down with us. Ducks not on the schedule this year, but hopefully the Cornhuskers in Oregon cross paths soon on the Big Ten schedule. We appreciate your time. Good luck this season.
We'd be happy to play you guys here in the Big Ten championship game. So
Wish
you guys the best.
Let's see it.
We'll try to do our part.
All right. Coach Matt Rhule, Nebraska Cornhuskers head coach. Boy, we just got done talking about the difference in coaching.
He linked a lot of things for us there. Appreciate Coach for that.
He just went and he did. He closed those chain links up, and now we have a long chain of the connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Being listen first and then speak is kind of the new change in what he's seen in his development. But that's a guy who, even when he was at Temple, he was doing things differently in the world of college football, because he talked about the brotherhood, and building that was the first thing, and then everything else would kind of fall into place. Which that wasn't ever new to the world of college football, but the ways that he went about it, and kind of melding the being hard, holding guys accountable, but also letting them know that you are there for them and that you care about them more than just on a football level.
I wish we had time for one more question, because I wanted to ask him, because I thought the answer was very, very poignant when I asked him about recruiting and Nebraska. And for those that don't know, the old adage was you threw up a 500-mile fence around Omaha, and you kept every single player in that fence. Yeah. And that's what made Nebraska great, is they got all the farm boys. They kept everyone that was local, their local being 500-mile radius, because Nebraska's, you know, the population's a little bit smaller. But he mentioned guys that want to stay. And the thing that I really wanted to ask him there was, how do you identify that today?
Yeah.
What are the markers that you look for? Because what that could look like could be very different depending on who you talk to.
In that right there is what I preach about recruiting being more than NIL. It is the relationship building, and it is such a hard thing to do, because you have these coaches that are now, they're trying to identify and build those relationships with guys. Like Oregon, for example, has their Saturday Night Live event this Saturday, which they bring in prospects from around the country for a skills camp, right? You got guys that they're starting to try and build those relationships with players that they're freshmen in high school. Sophomores, and that's where the relationship building starts, though, where you get in their ear, you start to learn kind of who they are, and obviously you're looking at them going, all right, does the skill set match what we're looking for, and does the personality? It is a tough world to be in the world of being a college football head coach, because those relationships are really hard to build when you have such a short amount of time to really figure out who these guys are. It's wild. And by the way, the 500-mile radius around Nebraska and Lincoln, Nebraska, it goes a lot further than you would think. Like, it almost touches down into like Dallas, Fort Worth. It goes into Chicago. And then Tom Osborne was always like, "We're gonna get California too.
Yeah,
we're gonna go there."
If you go look at the recruiting classes that they had at Nebraska every year, it's like, oh, weird. That little tiny school in Omaha is the second or third best recruiting class. How did that happen?
Oh, no way.
Weird.
No way.